Luck is an emo sorcerer who defeats the demon lord and saves the world. However, when his people think he died in battle, he uses this to live a new life so he can go on adventures and crack baddies. Our story starts right after our boy, Luck, the hero Eric, and the warrior Goran defeat the demon army and its king after a long battle that cost them years. Eric is relieved they get to go home to his family and newborn child, while Goran finally gets to meet his daughter again. Luck expresses how sad it is for their families to wait this long, while reminding himself it is best for him to stay single. However, Eric and Goran tell Luck that having a family is a great motivation, urging him to start cracking cheeks and get some juniors running around. Suddenly, they sense a horde of demons running at them and realize the battle is not over. Luck decides to fight them alone and tells the others to run, knowing they lack the energy to go on. When they protest, Luck casts an earth spell to close his escape and ensure the others cannot interfere. Eric and Goran refuse to leave, but Luck reminds them they have families to return to, adding that they have become his family, which motivates him to fight. With heavy hearts, Eric and Goran accept his self-sacrifice and beg him not to die. Luck charges the demons alone. Time passes, and he faces a demon general who uses Drain Touch to suck his mana dry like she's Mia Khalifa at her prime. Luck returns the favor by using Drain Touch on her, making her scream and squeal as her energy runs out, revealing that his learning skill lets him copy any magic spell he sees. This replenishes his mana and health, so he picks up the general's sword and charges the remaining army. He fights millions of demons, losing track of time, even using a mannequin spell to force his body to keep fighting while he sleeps. After slaughtering more demons, he blocks a sudden, powerful attack. To his surprise, the Demon King has recovered in merely days since their last battle. To prevent the Demon King's fire magic, Luck closes in for hand-to-hand combat and tries to use Drain Touch, but the Demon King blocks it with a spell, pushing Luck back. Luck feels his wounds and knows he must recover soon to survive. The Demon King swings his hex sword, destroying Luck's weapon, but Luck does not get discouraged. Knowing he is a sorcerer, he charges on. He casts an imprisoning Hellfire spell to force the Demon King onto the defensive, then doubles down with Drain Touch. This forces the Demon King to either become crispy bacon or have his life force drained. After hours of struggle, Luck comes out on top, picks up the Demon King's remaining sword, and celebrates. He escapes the dimensional rift with the sword, realizing he burned his adventure card, clothes, and wealth, making him a poor bum. With nowhere else to go, he walks to the royal capital, but is confused by how much it has changed. When he walks past the guards, they stop him, but instead of arresting him for public indecency, they give him clothes, which Luck appreciates. He goes to Goran's place, which is now a massive mansion, but security refuses to let him in. Luck tries to reveal his identity as Luck the Sorcerer, but the guard scolds him for trying to portray someone else and tells him to go away. Luck changes his plan and heads to the Adventurers Guild to get a new card. On the way, he passes a statue of a handsome sorcerer he does not recognize. He asks a civilian who it is. The civilian is shocked Luck doesn't know, but looking at Luck's appearance, assumes he is a bum from the countryside. He explains the statue represents the great sorcerer Luck, who sacrificed himself to save the world from the demons 10 years ago. Shocked to learn he fought for a whole decade, Luck rushes to the guild for information. The other adventurers do not recognize him and try to start a fight, but Goran suddenly appears. Tears in his eyes, Goran hugs Luck and takes him somewhere private, shocking the crowd. Goran keeps hugging Luck, expressing his happiness that he returned after 10 years. He gives Luck a plate of food, which Luck eats greedily since he has been fighting on an empty stomach for a decade. However, Goran pulls it back, reminding him to go easy on solid food after a long fast, and orders his butler to get rice porridge. As they discuss how he survived, Luck explains that learning Drain Touch made the difference. The butler returns with the porridge, but reveals himself to be Eric, who could not wait to see his friend. Eric hugs Luck in tears, grateful his buddy survived. Then Eric and Goran point out that while they grew older, Luck actually became younger. Luck looks in a mirror and realizes they are right. He concludes it happened after he absorbed all of the Demon King's energy. Hearing that Luck defeated the Demon King shocks them both. Eric informs him that for the past decade, the kingdom prepared its military to face the Demon King's return, but now that Luck has won, they must reward his heroics. Goran agrees with the king. Luck is surprised to hear that Eric became the king after the previous ruler passed the title down for driving back the demons. Goran reveals that while Eric is the king, Goran is now the Grand Master of the Adventurers Guild, and Luck has been crowned the Great Sage and an Archduke, making him royalty. They talk about the statue, and the two uncles explain that since the sculptor never met Luck, he followed their descriptions, resulting in a handsome version of him. After thinking it over, Luck decides the story of Luck the Sorcerer should stay dead so he can start fresh. He receives a new card that hides his identity and his S-rank status, showing his name as Luck, an F-rank warrior. Goran asks Locke if he will be bored facing weak enemies, but Locke assures him he has had enough of powerful foes after a decade of fighting. On his way out, Goran's butler apologizes for the earlier incident at the mansion, but unbeknownst to them, a girl watches the interaction and hears everything. Later, Locke goes to the guild and meets the receptionist, Aron, and he asks her to approve his quest to exterminate some goblins. However, she refuses to let him take on the quest alone and insists that he join a party to go on that quest, considering that he is a rookie, not knowing that he's actually an S rank. Just then, two F rank adventurers invite Locke to join their party, and without his approval, Aron approves it, forcing Locke to go on a quest with them. They then introduce themselves as Ginny the archer and Ario the sorcerer, while Locke introduces himself as a swordsman. The trio then travels far away to where the goblins' habitats are, following people's word of mouth and seeing from the footsteps. Ginny concludes that there are 10 of them. Watching her work, Locke is impressed with how great she is as a scout, but also notices how she lacks in experience, considering how quickly she concludes the goblins' number, not knowing that the footsteps they're following show that there are other monsters leading them. Locke thinks about telling them about it, but decides not to, believing that it's good for their experience, while also promising that he will take responsibility and not let them die. Sometime later, they find the goblins' den in an old mine shaft, and Locke quickly takes the lead, ordering Ginny and Ario to back him up, but save up their energy. They didn't charge in with Locke chopping heads and brutalizing the goblins inside their habitat, while the two rookies back him up and are shocked to find out that there are more than 10 goblins. After defeating them all, both rookies are tired and out of energy, and Ario decides that they should retreat, which Locke believes is a wise move. Suddenly, they hear a terrifying scream, and when they check it out, they find a goblin lord. Seeing that monster, Locke thinks to himself that it makes no sense for a goblin lord to be here. In that moment, a squirrel-shaped baddie jumps in and attacks the goblin lord. While she's attacking, she notices Locke and the others, and quickly urges them to run away. Locke orders the two rookies the same thing, and when Ario follows his command, he praises Ario for being smart and reasonable. However, Locke then watches the battle from up close, annoying the squirrel girl, but Locke warns her that her sword is not strong enough, and just like he claims, her sword breaks. She once more urges Locke to run away and pulls out another sword, but it ends up badly as her sword gets yeeted away. Seeing this, Locke has had enough, so he jumps in and claims that he will defeat the Goblin Lord by himself. The Goblin Lord screams in response, making the squirrel girl tremble under the massive pressure of its noise, but Locke merely gets annoyed and chops up the Goblin Lord with ease, shocking the squirrel girl. She quickly changes her tune and introduces herself as Saya from the Eastern Beastkin tribe. When she asks Locke who he is, she is surprised to find out that he is merely an F-rank adventurer, considering his tremendous strength, but she chooses to believe him anyway. She then reveals that she's a B-rank adventurer, and apologizes to Locke for being rude earlier, but Locke merely brushes it off, complimenting her for looking out for rookies like him. He then asks what is located deeper in the goblin's den, and when she refuses to tell him, he walks towards the door by himself, forcing her to speak out of fear for his safety. She tells him that they are up against a vampire lord, which Locke knows is a difficult opponent to go against. He asks Sia if a vampire lord is not too much for her, considering she's struggled against a goblin lord, and while Sia knows that she's outclassed, she refuses to turn back. As the two of them walk towards the vampire lord's lair, Sia tells him about how her tribe hunts down vampires for generations, but that some time ago, her father, the tribe's chief, got wounded and one vampire got away. She states that it's her tribe's failure that the vampire lord escaped, so as the daughter of the chief, she puts the burden on her own shoulders to finish the job for her tribe's honor. Locke then asks her if getting help going against the vampire would reduce the tribe's honor, and when Sia says that it wouldn't, Locke offers to let her borrow his sword, claiming that he's even powerful barehanded. Sia doesn't believe in that statement, but when she sees him beating up goblins to a pulp with his hands, she has no choice but to believe him, not knowing that this man was a sorcerer who fought a 10-year-long battle against demons. As they get deeper into the vampire's lair, they finally run into the vampire lord, and Sia claims that she will defeat him and restore her tribe's honor. The vampire laughs at her statement, even mocking her daddy for failing to defeat him, and warns that if she goes against him, he will suck her dry. When the vampire lord lays his eyes on Locke, he sees that Locke is a human, so he tells them that his servant spell won't work on beasts like Sia but will work on humans. He then uses it to Locke, making him into the vampire lord's new servant, and Sia fully blames herself for letting this happen. Suddenly, Locke delivers a knuckle sandwich to the vampire lord, revealing that he has a high resistance to mental debuffs. The vampire lord claims that no human can ever resist a vampire lord's servant magic, but Locke mocks and says that it must mean that this bozo is not a vampire lord. That angers the vampire, and he attacks, but Locke counters his every move, while continuing to mock him. Then, Locke uses his sorcerer ability using magic to move fast and activates his drain touch on the vampire lord, making him feel what it's like to be sucked hard and dry for once. Out of desperation, the vampire lord tries running away, but Sia quickly jumps in with Locke's blade and slashes through the vampire lord, permanently defeating him and turning him into dust. Sia praises the blade for being so sharp and points out that she felt insane power within it, making Locke nervous, as she doesn't want her to know it's the Demon King's very own hexblade. She then grabs a medallion from the ashes and explains that it's a curse medallion inside the bodies of vampire lords who build curses in it whenever they suck blood or take lives. Locke doesn't recognize it, thinking that vampires have drastically changed over the past decade. The dying vampire lord chips in and says that the medallion will open the portal to the dimensional rift, which will release a countless number of demons from other dimensions, followed by their very own dark gods. Locke hears that and remembers how the Demon King ran away into the dimensional rift, forcing him, Eric, and Goran to jump and follow him, which ended with him stuck in it for 10 years, and that the portal couldn't be opened from their side, leaving Locke all alone with no help. With that in mind, Locke slices the medallion in half and absorbs all the curse into his sword. The vampire lord is shocked to see this, and when he looks closely, he realizes that the sword Locke is holding is the Demon King's sword, and that he is indeed the Great Saint. Locke quickly slices the vampire lord, but Sia gets to hear it first and pretends not to hear it. On their way out, Sia calls Locke by his real name, and when Locke responds to her, it blows his cover, and he asks Sia to keep it a secret, to which she gladly agrees to do. Later, they return to the Adventurers Guild to hand in the goblin gems to Aaron, who is shocked to see so many, and apologizes for failing to assess the number of goblins in the mission. Afterward, Ario and Ginny insist that they thank the great sage Luck statue for protecting them during the quest, while Luck himself is holding back from being flustered. The two rookies then head out, leaving Luck with Sia, who tells Locke that since he's good friends with Goran, he should warn them about the vampire lords. To help him out, she hands Luck half of the medallion as proof when he tells Goran about it to make it more believable. Later, Luck meets up with Goran, who's upset that Luck left for 3 days for his quest without telling him. He then explains the medallion and how the demons that they faced before were actually just the first phase to hide the real enemies, called the Dark Gods. Gordon then takes the medallion, promising to get people to examine it, and thanks Luck for protecting the rookie adventurers. Luck then leaves to get some sleep and runs into a blonde girl who quickly walks away, annoyed. When Luck asks who that is, Goran reveals that it's her daughter, Shelise, who Goran explains is avoiding Goran for not approving her decision to become an adventurer. Goran then asks Luck for a favor to watch over her, knowing that in a few months, Shelise will become an adventurer, and Goran couldn't always keep an eye on her with his role as a Grand Master. The next morning, while Luck is eating breakfast, Shelise sits in front of him to confront him about his real identity. But to Luck's surprise, she doesn't accuse him of being the Great Saint, and instead accuses him of being Goran's illegitimate child. Luck quickly tells her that she's wrong, but Shelise refuses to believe his words, and lists down 3 things that support her suspicion. First, she claims that Goran waited until his wife was gone before inviting Luck into his house. Second, she claimed Goran was extremely happy lately. And third, when Luck left to go on his quest, Goran spent the 3 days worrying about him. Hearing that, Luck realizes that Goran's family is on the verge of collapse, and he sees Goran's butler staring daggers at him, as if telling him to fix the misunderstanding. Wanting to do that, Luck tells Shelise that Goran was simply worried about his adventure buddy, who has been gone for years, but from his explanation, Shelise concludes that Luck is her older brother, and when Luck tries to explain more, Shelise refuses to listen and insists on being his younger sister. He then tries a different method and shows her his adventures card, which shows that he's not part of her family. However, she still misunderstands and thinks that Goran refused to acknowledge him, so she assures Luck that she will help him become Goran's legitimate child. Having had enough of this absolute tomfoolery, Luck shows her his true adventures card that shows who he really is, and she is surprised to see that he is actually the Great Saint himself. But from that information, she once more misunderstands and concludes that the Great Saint is her older brother, even saying that his statue looks similar to Goran's face, meaning that they are related. After going back and forth, she finally understands the truth and apologizes to the Great Saint, which only shows Luck exactly why Goran doesn't want his daughter to become an adventurer. However, from their interaction, he also sees that she has a strong will, so he decides to let her tag along with him on a quest, knowing that either way she will go on her own. They didn't go deep into the woods, running to fountains to have a little fun, and talk to some civilians about reports of monsters being seen. However, Luck reminds Shelise that they are taking an E-rank level quest, meaning that there are no human casualties, which makes no sense with a dragon running around. While Luck already knows the answer to why that is the case, he lets Shelise think for herself, and she comes to the conclusion that the monster they're facing is merely illusion magic. They then go to the place where the reported monster is supposed to be, and to their surprise, a dragon pops out. It completely scares Shelise to see, but Luck assures her that it is an illusion, and that he can sense that it is not an actual dragon. So he pushes her to fight it, and she goes and clashes with the dragon with her blade. all the while Luck watches. It impresses him to watch Chalice in action, fully believing that from what he's seeing, she is truly a B-rank adventurer. He then turns his attention to the dragon, and from what he's seeing, the dragon is a high-level illusion created by an intense amount of mana, which is capable of blocking and countering Chalice's attack, making people believe that it's real. It then burns Chalice, and with her out of the way, Luck steps in and, using his various spells, he attacks the dragon and suck it up with his Drain Touch. He then tells Chalice to stop rolling around in her imaginary fire and teaches her that physical attacks could never work against an illusion. She then asks him how to defeat an illusion, and he tells her to find the caster and defeat them. He then turns to the forest and talks to the hiding caster, telling him to come out. He tries reasoning with the caster, saying that he knows the caster doesn't mean any harm and that he created the illusion to keep people away from something. When the caster doesn't respond, Luck warns him that if he doesn't come out now, the guild will send someone else to hunt them. In that moment, a portal opens, and the caster comes out of it, revealing himself to be a fiend, which Chalice quickly antagonizes. But Luck praises the caster instead, saying how amazing his illusion is, and he then introduces himself and Chalice to him. Chalice asks if the caster is not evil, and Luck informs her that it's a misconception that fiends are evil, when in reality, they're powerful beings who hate fighting. The caster then introduces himself as Lucira, and he leads the duo towards the thing he's hiding. Luck asks Lucira why he puts his trust in Luck, and Lucira talks about how he believes Luck to be a stronger sorcerer who doesn't use force. Lucira then takes them to an ancient ruin, and inside, Luck and Chalice are shocked to find a chicken being prayed to by Lucira. The fiend explains that the chicken is a being called Exalted Gerbega, the Seraphal, and when Chalice calls it a chicken, Lucira refuses to let that slide and insists that they call it a Seraphal. He then continues and reveals that the Seraphal has been worshipped by Lucira's tribe for a long time, and it's capable of preventing a dimension rift from opening, which Luck knows is a game changer. However, Lucira reveals that one night, his tribe was attacked by a horde of vampires, leaving only Lucira alive with the responsibility to protect the Seraphal. Luck asks why he's hiding in the temple, and Lucira explains that his tribe believed that Tay Temple has a protective barrier, which Luck checks doesn't have. After what he learns, Luck showcases the Demon King's sword and reveals his true identity as the Great Saint Luck. He tells Lucira that he wants to protect the Seraphal, and he swears on his life that the Seraphal will be saved, knowing that it has the power to save the world. Then, Luck thanks Lucira and his tribe for protecting the Seraphal in service of the world's safety. Seeing the Great Saint thanking him, Lucira can't help but tear up, feeling proud that the Seraphal his tribe died protecting will go on to save the world. On their way out of the temple, they are ambushed by 3 vampires, who Luck knows is targeting Lucira and the Seraphal. Refusing to let that happen, Luck uses his sorcery and completely demolishes the vampires, all the while one vampire watches. The cowardly vampire then tries to run and transform, but the Seraphal starts clucking loudly, and the sound of it turns the fleeting vampire into ashes. Chalice is in shock to see this, and Lucira explains that in the face of the Seraphal's power, nothing is allowed to exist mid-transformation. With that, they head back to the royal city, where they run into Sia, who has emergency news for Luck. He quickly takes her somewhere private, and she informs him that a vampire high lord is leading the vampires. Hearing this, Luck realizes that he's facing bad news, knowing that a high lord is the king who controls the vampire lords. Sia then informs him that her father is still injured and bedridden, and that makes her tribe lose its leader. Because of that, they decide that they will hunt down and attack the High Lord vampires, which scares Sia, knowing that there's a risk her tribe could be wiped out. Luck now understands that Sia need her help in fighting the vampires, but Sia stops him and says that there is a more important thing to do before their vampire hunt. Luck wonders what it is, thinking that there's nothing more important than the hunt, but Sia informs him that her tribe is prioritizing finding a magical chicken that is capable of closing dimensional rifts. That instantly connects the dots, and Sia is fully convinced that Luck thinks that her whole tribe is an idiot for focusing on an uncooked Kentucky Fried Chicken. Instead of explaining to her, Luck hears someone at the door and opens it, revealing Chalice, who is eavesdropping. Chalice quickly tries to make an excuse for her action, but ends up apologizing profusely, and Sia forgives her as long as she keeps her mouth shut. Lucira then walks in with the Seraphal in hand, and there, Luck introduces the overpowered chicken to Sia, which surprises her, now knowing that they already have the chicken in hand. It now leaves them only with the mission of defeating the vampire high lords, and after seeing the locations that they suspect the vampires might be, Chalice gets excited, thinking that she and the others are about to go to war against vampires. However, Luck tells her that she won't be going, and when she asks him why, He lies to her, saying that they need their most powerful warrior to stay at the mansion to protect the chicken in case the vampires strike there, which Charlize believes and agrees to do. Just then, they hear Goran arriving, and Charlize quickly goes to greet him. But Goran pops up into the room and goes straight to Locke to thank him for looking after his daughter, and Locke informs him that his daughter is a fantastic warrior, which Goran is more than happy to hear. Charlize then comes back in, and when she sees her father, she apologizes to him for how she treated him. Goran then asks her if it's because he was against her being an adventurer, and she tells him that he's wrong, but that it was because she thought that he had an illegitimate son and that Luck is her older brother. Goran then asks his daughter if she behaved around Luck, and she quickly runs away before answering, avoiding that question. Goran quickly turns around and apologizes to Locke for his daughter's behavior, saying that he doesn't know where it comes from. But Luck remembers vividly how Goran troubled both him and Eric during their adventures. Goran then vents out his worries that his daughter might face some freaky loser who tries to get to her cheeks, but Locke assures him that he will help watch over her, which earns him a tearful hug from Goran. In that moment, Charlize returns, and when she sees her daddy and Luck being lovey-dovey with each other, she assumes the worst and gives them some privacy. An hour passes, and the duo just manages to clear up the misunderstanding. They then go back to discuss what's important, and knowing they are facing vampire high lords and having to protect the magical chicken, it makes things complicated for them. Sia then adds that if the high lords get their hands on the chicken's blood, their amulet will automatically trigger a dimensional rift, explaining that the chicken's blood is too scared, shocking everyone there. That only strengthens Locke's idea that the chicken cannot come with them into battle, and that gives Goran an idea that they should ask Eric for help. Locke instantly thinks that's a great idea, considering they can keep the chicken in the royal palace, and Goran instantly sends out a message to Eric. Some hours later, Luck, the chicken, and the others are in the royal palace, and they get greeted by maids who make them tea, which makes commoners like Sia nervous. Locke goes to talk about Eric with Goran, who explains that after Eric became king, he prioritized knowledge, and now has over 2,000 apprentices learning under him, which Luck thinks is a great thing. Moments later, Eric pops up with his two daughters, Charlotte and Mary, who are eager to meet with the great sage himself. Locke then notices the book that Mary is carrying, and realizes that it's a storybook about himself. When he asks everyone about it, they all tell him that they are big fans of the book, even including the chicken, who all look up to him as a hero for what he did. Mary then sees the magical chicken, and goes to pet him, which the chicken enjoys. Charlotte joins in, a bit scared of getting pecked, but ends up petting the chicken as well. Seeing that Eric is now there, Goran orders Charlize to play with Eric's two daughters in another room, and a maid leads them out of the room. After Eric's daughters are gone, Eric thanks Goran for giving his daughters a chance to finally meet Luck. When Luck asks why, Eric explains that the only reason he got the chance to be a father and get home safely was because of him. Goran joins in to say the same thing, claiming that the only reason he was able to see Chalice grew up was Locke's sacrifice. Eric tells Locke that they're not the only one, revealing that everyone in this continent will forever be grateful to him, and while Locke is happy to hear that, he still thinks a picture book of his story is too much. Eric and Goran quickly joke around saying that they even have theaters portraying Luck's heroics. Locke then asks about Levi, and Eric tells him that while she wants to meet him after she heard that he returned, she still has to do her role at the cathedral. They then discuss their situation and how they need to protect the Sarah Powell's blood by all means, and Eric assures them that the chicken and Lucira will be safe within the royal palace's walls. They now discuss their plan against the vampires, and when Locke says that he has a plan, Goran and Eric are excited to hear it. Locke then states that they will make use of Sia's Beastkin clan to help them, and the plan starts with Locke and Sia distracting the vampire lords, giving Sia's clan a shot at defeating the vampire high lords. Eric and Goran believe that is a bad idea and that they should switch around their plan, with Luck taking on the vampire high lord. Goran worries that there will be casualties from Sia's clan, but Sia assures him that they are ready to die if it means that they are taking the High Lords with them to the afterlife. Eric and Goran then sadly inform Luck that they cannot lend him some of their men, knowing that vampires have the ability to hypnotize humans and make them slaughter each other, and Sia adds that humans who have been bitten become stronger, but that beastkins, like her, can detect them. Meanwhile, Charlize watches over the magical chicken play around with Charlotte and Mary. She thinks about what Luck told her about needing someone to protect the chicken, and she realizes that he merely said that to protect her from danger, knowing that she is still an F-ranked adventurer and would get in the way, despite calling herself Locke's apprentice. Just then, the girls notice something glowing behind Charlize, and from it come 3 low-level vampires. When they try running away, they're unable to open the door, not knowing that the maid was behind this, working as a secret agent. Charlize reevaluates her situation, wondering whether she can take on 3 vampires at once. When she goes for her sword, she realizes that it's not there, leaving her with no weapon. She quickly improvises and grabs a candle holder to use as a weapon, determined not to let the vampires get to the girls and the chicken. The vampire then attacks, and Charlize fights them off, even charging blindly when the vampires try to hypnotize her. but they prove to be too much for her, as they break the candle holder in half, forcing her to throw it at them. She then quickly protects the girls from the vampires, but in that moment, something blows them away. Out comes Locke, who praises his apprentice for holding on, and tells her that he will take over the fight. Just moments ago, Locke was talking with the others about their plans on how to handle the vampires and the High Lords, when his senses suddenly warn him that something is wrong. Jumping out the window to investigate, he barges inside just in time to save Chalice and the young princesses. 3 vampire henchmen try using charm spells to hypnotize him, but Locke tells them it won't work on him. He counters with his own magic, trapping them inside a sphere that he implodes to defeat them. The sight shocks Chalice, realizing just how powerful the great Saint Locke really is. Eric kicks down the door to comfort his daughters after the chaos, and the girls explain that Chalice was the one who protected them. Chalice tries to humble herself by saying she did nothing, but Locke insists she was the difference maker for their victory. Suddenly, the vampire portal activates again, revealing how the vampires got inside. Before more vampires step through, Locke uses Lucira's spell to create an illusion, hiding the others and disguising himself as a high-ranking vampire. The incoming vampires recognize him as Lord 8th and drop to their knees, explaining that Lord 6th ordered them to investigate the 3 missing vampires. Hearing this, Locke realizes that lower lord numbers mean higher ranks, meaning his disguise outranks their boss. Locke asks why they are targeting the royal palace, and they reveal their goal to kidnap and acquire the chicken god. They also confess that Lord 6 sent infiltrated human spies into the palace. Thanking them for the information, Locke quickly finishes them off. With this new information, they conclude that the maid who led Chalice to the room, Rowana, is a traitor working for the vampires, having brought a completed spell inside the royal palace. Locke suggests Eric arrest Rowana immediately, but an impatient Chalice runs after her, prompting Locke to order Sia to back her up. He then orders Eric to take the princesses somewhere safe and tells Goran to help protect the chicken god from danger. When Goran asks what Locke plans to do, Locke claims he wants to take care of Lord 6th and jumps straight through the magic portal, leading him inside Lord 6th's palace. Locke barges in to confront Lord 6th and his goons. He defeats a couple of vampires, but before he gets to the rest, Lord 6th shoots at Locke, carelessly hitting his own henchmen. Locke insults the vampire lord for not caring about his own men and charges with his sword, which the vampire lord counters with his own blade. However, Locke's superior swordsmanship proves too much, allowing him to slice the vampire lord in half. Locke demands to know how his puny minions entered the royal palace, but Lord 6th laughs and refuses to talk. Hearing that, Locke stabs his face to finish him off. Before dying, the vampire lord promises that their king will come for him, telling Locke to enjoy his very short life. With the vampire lord dead, he drops a cursed medallion. When Locke stabs it to absorb its power, he hears the horrific screams of all the victims who suffered under the vampire lord, calling for help and mercy. Locke senses where the victims were locked in, but upon finding their remains, he apologizes for not saving them sooner. Deeply frustrated, he finishes off the rest of the vampires before exiting the castle. Outside, he discovers a nearby village where all the villagers have been killed, realizing he was too late to save them as well. A few moments later, Locke returns to the royal palace, where Eric, Goran, and soldiers are waiting for him. He informs them that he managed to wipe out all the vampires in their hiding place, but the nearby village was destroyed. Goran blames himself, promising to send people to the village to give them a respected burial. Later, they manage to capture Rowana, and Sia happily informs them that Rowana was only charmed by a vampire spell rather than turned, giving them hope she can be cured. Chalice is relieved to hear that, knowing Charlotte and Mary will be happy their babysitter is okay. Eric declares the royal palace unsafe for the chicken god due to potential vampire spies inside. Locke insists he will defeat the High Lords alone, but both Goran and Eric tell him he won't be by himself. They explain that their best shot at winning this fight is for the 3 of them to come back and form a team like the old days. Locke reminds them of their important leadership positions, but Eric believes his brother can take his place, and Goran notes others can fill his position. The trio decides to defeat the High Lords together, while Sia watches in awe as the legendary trio is reunited. Right before they leave, Chalice begs to come with them, but Goran bluntly tells his daughter she will just get in the way. However, Locke fully believes she can be useful, and suggests Goran give her one of his swords, saying they share the same fighting style, and that Chalice can protect the princesses while they are gone. Eric supports the idea, reminding Goran that vampire spies might still be in the palace, ending their discussion with Chalice guarding the palace head-on. Soon after, low-level vampires appear, wanting to steal the chicken god from Lucira. Shalise showcases her ability, remembering how Locke told her to strike before the vampires can use their charm spells. The vampires turn their attention toward Lucira and the chicken god, but Lucira burns them to a crisp, revealing that the chicken god is not actually with him. Meanwhile, Locke, the chicken god, and the rest of the team reach the High Lord's base, leaving Eric angered to discover that their base was built so close to his royal palace. Just then, another furry human pops up to greet them, and Sia reveals that he is one of the chiefs of the Beastkin tribes. They then discuss tactics and decide to send the Beastkins to distract vampires while they go ahead and hunt down the High Lord, considering that the vampires would be weaker with sunset approaching. The Beastkins chief tells Sia that it's her chance to honor her father, and she assures him that she won't let her kind down. Before they continue, Locke hands Sia the sword used by the vampires Lord Sixth, stating that it will make her stronger, and receiving the gift, Sia expresses her gratefulness. When the sun goes down, they approach the base, which is hidden under illusion spells, so Luck uses his magic to reveal the entrance. Inside, they start wreaking havoc with Goran burning the vampires with his flame sword, and Sia watches in amazement to see the legendary vanguard in action. Then, they're about to reach where the High Lord is hiding, but when they turn around, they see 30 vampire lords blocking their exit. Locke steps forward, ready to fight them, but Eric and Goran step in front of him, ordering him to leave them behind and defeat the High Lord. Luck tries to refuse to leave them, but the duo tells him how much they wanted to repay what he did for them 10 years ago, and now they have a chance to do so. With that, Luck and Sia head inside, where they face the High Lord, whose aura Sia can feel at first glance. They notice a cage behind the High Lord, and they can't see what's inside it, but the High Lord attacks Locke and praises his reflexes for being able to block him. The High Lord tries using Charm, but Locke tells him that Charm doesn't work on him. Locke then attacks, and the High Lord tries blocking, but his defense spell cracks, which ends with the High Lord getting cut. Sia tries taking advantage of this, but the High Lord tells her that she's too slow. However, Luck jumps in as well and cuts his left hand while he was distracted. Here, Sia believes that her and Luck's teamwork can defeat the High Lord, but to their surprise, the High Lord easily grows back his severed hand, stating that his sword won't work on him, making Luck realize that this will be a tough battle. Outside, Goran and Eric are cooking the low-level vampires, but then, a busty vampire appears and uses Shadow Clone Jutsu to go against Eric. He's fully convinced that the two of them are not enough, but a third one pops up and bites his nape, which makes her excited to get herself a handsome boy toy like Eric as her vampire slave. However, he slices her clones, saying that the only baddie he is going to crack is his wife, and reveals that the blood of a hero is highly resistant to a vampire's bite, before he finally puts an end to this vampire hoe. Back with the battle inside, Locke notices that the High Lord is moving slower ever since he had to grow his hand, so he and Sia coordinate to attack the High Lord, managing to get Locke in position to use Drain Touch on the vampire. Locke quickly follows up by slicing the vampire in half, and when the vampire tries to escape, the Seraphal uses its power to prevent him from escaping. However, that exposes where the Seraphal has been hiding, so the vampire pulls out his medallion on his teeth and bites it in half, which causes a reaction. It suddenly makes everyone feel tremendous pressure, as if gravity is pushing them straight into the ground, preventing them from moving. The vampire reveals that he just activated divine blessing straight from the dark gods, which makes everyone apart from the vampire unable to move, especially the stronger they are. The vampire is then about to get his hands on the chicken god's blood, but Luck thinks quickly and moves out of the way, using his mannequin spell to force his body to move. Luck knows that he needs to destroy the source of this immense pressure they are facing, and in that moment, Sia manages to just move and attack the vampire, taking away his attention and giving Luck a chance to make his move. However, the vampire just manages to catch his sword, saying that Luck stands no chance against the vampire's amplified power, and that he should simply hand over the Seraphal. But then, Luck tells him to look at his own hand, and to the vampire's surprise, his hand is bleeding, and a holy barrier is restraining the divine blessing sent straight from the church, which is having a sermon to send its holy powers. With that, Luck has had enough of the vampire, slices him in half, and chops his head off. When the vampire tries once more to run away, the Seraphal uses its power to end the vampire for good. With the threat gone, Locke and Sia thank each other for the teamwork, then they go to the cage they saw earlier and find a wolf inside. Sia recognizes this pup as a sacred beast, who she knows has the same ancestors as her kind, making the two species have massive respect for each other. Hearing about that, Luck asks if the wolf has a special power like the Seraphal, and Sia assures him that it doesn't, but that the wolf is extremely clever and even understands their language, which is the reason why the vampires kept it in a cage and probably did experiments on it. Feeling sorry for the poor pupper, Luck decides to free it from the cage, but he is surprised to find the wolf fully asleep and refusing to wake up. Sia reminds him that he used a sleeping spell on the whole cave before entering, so Locke uses a dispel to break his earlier sleeping spell. The second that the wolf wakes up, it sees Locke and quickly charges at him, wanting to take his head off. Sia quickly reacts and tells the wolf that the wolf is safe now, and that Locke was the person who saved and freed it from its confinement. The wolf quickly backs off, as if like it's apologizing, and Luck fully understands that the wolf must have been scared, so he tells it that it is now free. Within seconds, the wolf runs around happily, overjoyed that it has its freedom back. They then exit the chamber to find Eric and Goran victorious over the other vampires, and Luck tells Eric to thank Lefi for the help in countering the Dark God's divine blessing. But Eric insists that Locke tells her himself, knowing she will be happy. Locke then asks if Eric ordered her to do this, but he simply says that she did it by herself, considering that she is his wife. With that, they exit the ruins and find the other beastkins, who underwent a grueling battle against low-level vampires. They cheer at the sight of Locke and the others, and Eric tells Locke that they are cheering for him, but Goran thinks that the king should take this responsibility. Following that advice, Eric steps up as the king and cheers back at them, which results in everyone roaring loudly for their victory, while Luck is still getting used to fighting with others after the 10 years he spent fighting alone. Afterward, Luck and the others went back home to the kingdom, with the wolf following and sneaking behind them, not wanting to get caught. Goran tells Locke that the wolf is following them, so Locke confronts the wolf, telling it that it is free now to do anything. Sia informs Locke that it seems the wolf decides to follow him, and the others encourage Locke to accept, considering that just like him, the wolf doesn't have any family. After hearing their advice, Locke approaches the wolf, caresses it, and accepts the wolf as his family member. They then arrive back in town, where Eric's daughters greet them, and the girls inform them that Chalice and Lucira fully did their duties to protect them. They then notice all the vampire gems beneath Chalice's feet, and is impressed to find out that they defeated about 20 vampires. But then, Locke gets even more astonished to find that they even went against arch-vampires, seeing that there are a couple of gems from defeating them, and Locke praises her, saying that this proves that she is truly Goran's daughter. Meanwhile, Goran is unable to hold his face while he praises his own daughter, secretly being embarrassed, but also completely proud of his daughter. Seeing how many vampires managed to slip into the kingdom, Eric insists that they need to strengthen their defense, but that gives Luck an idea. He suggests to him that they should add beastkins like Sia into the Royal Guard army, considering that beastkins cannot be hypnotized or affected by vampires. Eric fully believes that this is a great idea, even insisting that he will start recruiting, and Sia is more than proud to know that her fellow beastkins will have this honor. Then, Eric brings up rewards and says that Locke should get one too, so he asks Locke what he truly wants. After thinking for a moment, he asks for a house to live in, considering that he has a family now with the wolf, the chicken, and Lucira by his side. Somewhere in the city, a red-haired little girl is trying her best to survive, living on the streets and scraping for what she can to live. She didn't get spotted by scary-looking dudes who chase after her, but she just manages to escape into someone's basement. Sometime later, Luck is presented with his new house, which he thinks is too big, despite him being a royal himself. He and the others look around the house, and they quickly start dividing chores to clean it. Lucira and the chicken then go to pick a room, which Locke approves, but to his surprise, Chalice also picks a room, insisting she wants to stay there, to which Locke refuses to let happen, considering she has her own house. Locke then talks to Goran, who informs Locke that the house has a lookout tower, and after seeing that, Locke decides to make it his and the wolf, Garb's room. That night, Locke gets woken up by Lucira, who informs Locke that he has been hearing a terrifyingly eerie noise coming from the basement. Being the head of the household, Locke goes to check it out with Lucira and the chicken by his side. It brings them to a door, and when they listen closely, they hear a terrifying voice, saying over and over again that it hurts, which frightens them. Lucira wonders if the sound is from an undead, and Luck warns him to be careful as he opens the door. Facing total darkness, Lucira uses his light magic to help them see, and the first thing he sees is a terrifying sight, so he screams in fear. However, Luck asks him to use his light magic again, and when Lucira does so, they finally see clearly that it's just the red-haired girl, hanging upside down with her feet stuck on the rope, begging to get down. Luck goes to help her, and when Lucira sees her clothes, he assumes that she's a burglar and insists that they bring her to the authorities. But Luck firmly says that they should hear her out first. After calming down, the girl introduces herself as Milka, and she explains that she thought that the place was abandoned and that she needed a place to sleep. Luck asks her if she doesn't have a place to stay, and Milka confesses that she has been an orphan for a long time and was taken care of by her grandpa. But the old man also recently died, and that he got into debts that took his home, effectively making Milka homeless. Luck asks if Milka ran away because she thought that the debt collectors were going to make her into a slave to repay the debt. But Lucira informs him that slavery was abolished a decade ago by their king, and hearing that, Luck is happy to know that Eric is a great king. Luck then asks how Milka got into the basement, and she reveals that she got inside through the sewers, which are connected to the mansion. Seeing this, Luck realizes his mistake of not checking for hidden doors and traps the second he moved in, which he blamed on his dull scouting skills. Out of curiosity, Luck decides to check it out, and both Lucira and Milka insist on joining. Down there, they wonder where the passageway leads and why it was created, considering the mansion they live in doesn't belong to any royals. Milka then shows them the hole that she went through to get into the mansion, and when they check the hole in the wall, they suspect that it collapsed by itself, so they decide to keep going through the passage and close the hole later. Before they continue, Milka kindly asks Luck to let her sleep in the sewers for the time being, saying that it will keep her away from the dangers and the scary debt collectors from getting to her. But Luck insists that they should find out what the passageway leads to before they get to that. Milka then says that she should walk in front of them just in case there are traps waiting for them, so it would give Luck and Lucira a chance to run if she is caught. But Luck lovingly caresses her head and says that he would never let someone like her take that responsibility. He then assures her that he is a veteran adventurer who won't get caught by measly traps, which makes her happy. As they keep walking, they run into the end and face a door, and both Luck and Lucira sense powerful magic coming from it. Curious what the door is hiding, Luck uses his trace magic to reveal the spells protecting the door, then he uses his analyze magic to crack the spell, and then he uses dispel to completely unlock the door. When they step inside, they are greeted by a luxurious room belonging to royalty, but then they hear someone coming to the door, and they quickly go hide to see who it is. To their surprise, it turns out to be Eric, and the passageway leads to his royal palace. With that, Luck tells the others to come out, and while Eric recognizes Lucira, he is confused when he sees a new face in Milka, but he warmly greets her as well. After Luck explains to Eric about the whole ordeal, Eric reveals the whole truth about how the passageway was created, because his grandfather, the old king, had a fling with a baroness who was a widow, and that he created the passageway and the house for her so he could go to her house, crack her cheeks, and go back home without getting caught by the queen. Luck then asks why the house was empty in the first place, and Eric explains that it was because the baroness had only one heir, and he was adopted by Eric's uncle. They then discuss the passageway, and Eric admits that he doesn't mind having a secret passageway to Luck's house, as that makes him feel safe. However, he points out that the sewer is the issue, so Luck tells him that he will use his magic to seal it up. After he did, they're about to go home, but Milka just drops and sleeps on the floor. Luck understands that it's because it's late at night and she's tired, so she lifts her up. Lucina then asks Luck kindly to let Milka live in their mansion, mentioning that the fruit Milka was eating was not edible, and that Milka has nothing, but Luck assures him that it was his intention all along, which Lucira is happy to hear. The next morning, Milka wakes up in a room, and when she gets out, she's confused to see that she is in a mansion. While wondering where she is, she can hear her tummy rumbling, but then a growl follows up behind her. When she looks back, she is greeted by Garb, who instantly charges at her, causing her to scream. That wakes up Luck, and when he finds them, he praises his pet wolf for guarding the house, but asks him to treat Milka like a guest. Everyone else then comes out due to the commotion, and Luck uses this chance to introduce their new housemate, Milka, who is ecstatic to hear that. Everyone introduces themselves to Milka, and Luck then assigns Milka to cleaning duties for the mansion, which Lucira is more than happy to guide her in, seeing that the family is getting bigger. Then, they have breakfast, where Milka happily eats everything in front of her, tasting all the delicious food, and Goran is amazed to see that Luck already added another housemate to his mansion. They then talk about the passageway, and Luck informs them that he is planning to use it as an escape route for both his mansion and the king's if anything were to happen. Meanwhile, Milka is happily eating everything while Chalice happily offers her more food, and when Milka refers to Chalice as her big sister, Chalice folds and is more than happy to gain a little sister. They then discuss their next steps, and while they assign Lucira to finish up cleaning and setting up the mansion, Luck and the rest go to buy supplies. When they get to one store, Luck tells Milka and Garb to stay put outside while he and Chalice go and buy some supplies. But while the two of them are gone, Milka thinks it's a great idea to buy cleaning supplies early, so she goes to check a store by herself. But there, she gets confronted by someone. When Luck and Shalise finish their shopping, they notice Milka missing and quickly find out that some scary-looking dudes took her away, so Luck quickly assigns Garb to track her down. Somewhere in the city, the thugs are demanding more money from Milka to pay her grandfather's debt, but Milka tells them that Luck told her that she doesn't have to pay anyone's debt. Just as the thugs are about to get aggressive, Luck shows up and tells them that she doesn't have to pay for anyone's debt. One thug then talks about how they're just going to make her turn into a slave, but Luck attacks that dude and quickly finishes off the other two goods, setting Milka free from them and into Shalise's hands. Using one of his skills, Luck turns himself into one of the thug bosses and interrogates the thug to tell him their motives. The thug confesses that he works for a guy named Canvito, who runs a slave trading group, and that the guy planned to turn Milka into a slave. After Luck knocks him out, he takes the goons to the authorities. When Luck asks about this Canvito guy, the authority explains to them that Canvito is a slave trader who has connections with the royals, so it's impossible for him to be arrested. Meanwhile, Canvito has heard news about how the goons failed to capture Milka, so he orders his men to move the other slaves somewhere safe, and he rents some ex-adventurers to be his henchmen to ensure security for it. That night, while the slaves are being moved, Luck shows up to confront Canvito, introducing himself as an F-rank adventurer. Canvito sends his goons after Luck, but Luck easily defeats all of them without breaking a sweat. Canvito's henchman then steps up, confidently revealing that they are B-rank level adventurers. But before Luck even engages them, Shalise and Sia step up and declare that they will handle this. The two goons look down on the girls, saying that mere lowly hoes can never defeat B-rank adventurers like them. When they charge at each other, one goon targets Shalise, and he deliberately uses fake movements to bait Shalise into finding an opening. However, Shalise blocks him and starts swinging, forcing him to defend. It causes his hand to feel numb, and he questions whether this girl is actually an F-rank adventurer. Meanwhile, the other goon is being completely overwhelmed by Sia, who jumps around him and manages to cut him twice, making the goon trembling fear. The goon then tries to make a sudden move, but Sia quickly neutralizes him, which ends with the goon on the floor. The goon asks who Sia is, and when she introduces herself as a vampire hunter, the goon realizes he screwed up. Meanwhile, the other goon tries to move out of desperation, but Shalise easily defeats him. Seeing them defeated, Canvito tries to use the slaves as hostages, but Luck quickly stops him and knocks him out for what he did to Milka. The girls then quickly save the slaves, and when the other goons try running away, Garb is right there to force them to surrender out of fear. Canvito then desperately tries to threaten Luck, saying that he knows all their dirty nobles and will use his connection to delete Luck out of existence. But Luck simply brushes him off and tells him to keep yapping in his jail cell. Just then, Milka and the authorities show up, and they are shocked to see Canvito and his whole gang defeated by only 3 adventurers. Luck quickly covers his own tracks, saying that the girls did all the work, and he merely assisted, ensuring his real identity doesn't get exposed. Canvito then tries to use his connection to get the authority to arrest Luck and the girls, but this authority is clean as a whistle and refuses to bow down to his words. The slaves then get their freedom, and Aron, the receptionist, assures Luck that she will take good care of them. With the slaves secured, Luck and the others go inside, where they find evidence against Canvito alongside his gold. But then, Garb senses something from a treasure chest, and while Canvito begs them not to open it, Luck uses his magic to crack it open, and is surprised to find a piece of ham that even Garb drools over. Sia jumps in and explains that this ham-shaped meat is actually the flesh of a sacred beast, just like Garb, and they can come from unicorns or Pegasus. But because they were slaughtered horribly, it becomes a cursed juju that is usually used for rituals to take over someone's mind or even summon demons, which makes this ham extremely illegal, enough to send Canvito to jail for the rest of his life. Locke praises Garb for the fine, but the poor doggy is disappointed to hear that the ham will be taken into custody. Afterward, the criminals are taken back to jail, but Luck knows that despite Canvito being their boss, him possessing that dangerous ham must mean that someone is behind this. Unbeknownst to them, a bat witnessed everything, and it reports back to its master, a high-level vampire, about Luck and his crew. Because of that, right under Luck's mansion, just behind the hole Luck fixed with magic, inside the sewers, that vampire has sent his little army to hide there. Some hours later, Luck and the others return to the mansion and are greeted by Lucira. Shalise shows up with a bag full of her clothes, and she invites Milka to join her and clean the bathrooms, which he gladly would love to do. While they're off cleaning toilets, Luck and the rest go to the basement to properly fix the hole by using proper tools and cement, and use magic to fully enhance it. After it's done, they go to the secret door to the palace, and Sia praises Luck for sealing this entrance by only using his magic, but Luck informs her how he already promised Eric to build an escape route for him and his family through this hole. Using magic, he dispels his own seal, but before they bring the wall down, someone punches through it, surprising them, and when they see through the hole, it turns out to be Lafai. When she sees Luck, she quickly backs away, letting Locke and the others go to the hole. The girls ask who this is, and Locke introduces her as his old party's healer and Eric's current wife. Hearing that, the girls quickly bow down, realizing that they are facing the kingdom's queen herself, but Leffy tells them not to do so, expressing how she never liked being called the queen. She then tells them how Eric has told stories about Locke and the others' heroics, so she thanks them, and both Lucira and Sia feel honored by that. Leffy then turns to Locke and points out how much he hasn't changed, even saying how unfair it is that he actually got younger. Locke asks her what she's doing here, and she reveals how Eric told her not to come there, but she chose to sneak in anyway. So Locke explains that he was tasked to fix the wall, and that Eric probably doesn't want her getting hurt. Suddenly, Eric comes running in, and his queen immediately demands an explanation of why there's a secret entrance to the castle. Eric tries his best to explain, but his explanation only makes him look like he's hiding secret baby mamas from her. Locke quickly jumps in to save him and explains to Leffy the truth of what happened. That calms her down, knowing that the hole was created by the king 2 generations back, and she scolds Eric for not just telling her about it. Luck then fixes the hole and covers it with a door made from a giant unpenetrable shield that he bought from a shop. Using magic, Luck asks Eric and his whole family to put their mark on his seal, ensuring that they are the only people able to open and close the doors in an emergency. However, Eric asks that Luck do the same, stating that he feels more at ease knowing that someone like Luck has access to the palace. After they all put their mark on the seals, Luck finishes the magic spell, but Goran suddenly pops out of the door, shocking Luck. Goran explains that Chalice told him where Luck has gone, but Luck sees this as a great chance to let Goran also have access through it. But Leffy brings the attention back to them, pointing out how the 4 of them are reunited, and Sia is in awe seeing the legendary party in the flesh. Then, Leffy asks them all to sit down and make some tea for them, which both Sia and Lucira feel that they don't deserve to drink, considering it's made by the queen. Leffy then takes both her daughters out of the room to let Luck and the others discuss, and before going, Leffy does something she wanted to do for a long time, and that is welcoming him home. In return, Luck thanks her for helping him against the High Lord Vampire. Now that only the adults are left, they discuss the cursed juju ham that was found in Convito's place, and Eric tells the others to keep this information a secret, revealing that the vampires that infiltrated the palace also had similar items. Luck warns that since the enemies possess those cursed juju items, even more dangerous level vampires and demons are capable of infiltrating the palace. But Eric suspects that one has already infiltrated, shocking everyone there. Knowing this, he asks Luck to look into it and hints to him that some corrupt nobles might also be behind this. Considering that nobles are involved, Eric is even willing to give Luck legitimate authorization to do whatever is necessary. He also asks Sia and Lucira to back him up, to which both feel honored to do. The trio then heads back home and is surprised to be greeted by a cute, red-haired girl whom they don't recognize. When he looks closer, he realizes that it is Milka, and Chalice proudly reveals that she lets Milka wear her old clothing. Milka is completely embarrassed by what she's wearing, but Luck and the others assure her that she looks great, which gives her confidence. They then get ready for dinner, and Milka gets too excited and slips, and the others quickly help her, which Luck is happy to witness, saying that his family is slowly bonding together. Thanks for watching till the end. Don't forget to stay tuned for future episodes, and make sure to drop your favorite character in the comments section if you're hyped for the next episode.